Welcome back to the Holotable Games Network. I'm Ginger Joey.
And I'm 1.21 gigawatts of Corey.
Nice little Back to the Future reference.
Heck yeah. They did a 35 millimeter screening this weekend. It was delightful.
So
And it
the
was actually, funny enough, it was actually one of the original prints, which
oh,
you can only tell by does it have to be continued at the end of the credits. And it did
nice.
not have the to be continued at the end. I was like, wow, it's actually an original 35 millimeter print that looked really good.
Cool. Yeah, one of the Broadway show of that came through Portland a little while back as well. So which I didn't even know they did that. So
Yeah, I need to look into that more. I'm nervous about going to any of those 80 Broadway shows after I went to Beetlejuice, and it was one of the worst things I've ever seen. And I'm like, "No, this is bad."
speaking of anomaly kind of like casting stuff, I think I just read an article that Adam Driver is getting cast as a Magneto in an X-Men film coming up.
Maybe nobody knows anything for sure because
S-
it's
So
Disney.
Kylo Ren is going to be Magneto now?
That'd be fun. I He could work. I like
That's funny.
I like Adam Driver as an actor. I think he's a good actor. So
So this is
anyway,
our weekly SWUmary, and I say weekly with a nice preface of italics because we haven't done it weekly for a little while because the season kind of ended and there really wasn't much to talk about
yeah,
going forward.
yeah, it's been kind of a quiet time. I mean, we've all been messing around with decks, and there's been several new deck uploads. Apologies, there was a gap in between that as well as we had some audio issues, but we're working on things and we're getting things up. We've got this week we've uploaded a couple more. We've got a couple more coming next week. So things are going on, and things are starting to spin up now that Ash is actually dropped on us, and we had our pre-release weekend this weekend, which was a lot of fun.
Which is
uh
why we're doing another one of these because we have information we can share with you about the turn of
yeah,
events that happened.
we have things to talk about. It's fun. So starting off with, as mentioned, just talking about the Ashes release itself. So we did Ashes, had pre-releases this weekend. I was able to attend two. Joey, how many did you get to?
I just wanted to one because financially, I'm trying to cut back a little bit.
Yeah,
In preface for trying to get to Galactics and make sure I have the cards that I want, because we're only getting like a 2 week window between the release or the pre-release release and actual Galactics. So I mean, any testing that you've done, you got to try to get those cards that you need as fast as possible. So I opted just to straight up get an extra box instead of going to extra pre-releases. Part of that
yeah,
saves time for me, and then part of it is just hopefully getting more of what I was looking for at that point in time, or maybe getting trade fodder to actually trade into what I needed for the decks that I plan on taking to Galactics. So I went to the one that we had at Red Castle Games, which they called a super sealed or a super pre-release, in which
yep.
you get your pre-release kit and 6 extra packs. So it's kind of like a half a box in that regard. And then you're just building your decks out of that. And I always build 2 decks whenever I get those because I always want to go like testing because that's releases are meant to be fun. They're meant to be like explore the new cards. Yes, there's a
Yeah.
small competitive aspect to them, but if you're going to a pre-release trying to be the gung ho champion all the single time, you're doing it wrong in my opinion.
Yeah. Go to a pre-release, have a good time. Just have fun, have a silly time. I made I mentioned I made a really to Joey before. I made a really gross Luke deck in my pre-release on Sunday. And if you played pre-releases, you know everybody that built a Luke deck is, oh boy, does Luke drag out games in pre-release like no other. And yeah, so I had this very gross deck that was dragging games out forever, and then deservingly I get matched up with the other Luke deck for the last game. I'm like, yep, you know what? We both deserve this. We we did this to ourselves.
Yep, yep, pretty much. I ended up at mine built a grief red just because the cards in my packs align to make that. Um, and I think grief is going to be a very popular limited leader to actually play. So, and then I got a couple other cards that made me want to try something, which I tried a Moff Gideon deck. A little
Yeah,
harder to build in limited because of the fact that you don't necessarily get all the keywords that you want. And then when you do get some keywords, you still got to draw them to put them in your discard pile. So it can be a little awkward to make it happen. But I wanted to do it to also experiment with some of the interactions that can occur. And I discovered something that I misread the entire time, which was Moff Gideon states when if an Imperial unit was defeated, you can exhaust him and play a unit at one cost reduction. That's
Hmm.
any unit, not just another Imperial unit. So I always thought it
Yep.
was complete Imperial synergy, and it is not, which then made me go,
Hmm.
oh, this has some other applications that I wasn't considering. And that is one of the things that I think pre-releases are for, is just to discover stuff that maybe you didn't realize. And I got to pull off some really funny combinations with it. Like I was using the Emperor's Messenger in that, as because it's an Imperial, because it was a green yellow version, and it's the guy that gets support, and then you can ready a resource. Great. And I ended up getting three of the card that costs two and gives a unit +3/+3. And I kept putting them on the messenger. And then I got a
Oh God.
twins, and I would make the messenger a sentinel with my twins card. And so it was like he doesn't want to
Uh,
kill it, but he has to kill it. So it was a very,
uh,
like, very funny interaction. And it's like pre-releases can just create situations that you wouldn't normally run into.
oh,
So,
speaking of, do you want to put the text up too? We've got text for this, so we
oh,
should actually put the text up. Let's put the
boom,
text up. We got pretty new text. Look at this, guys. We're talking about Ash's pre-release. Hey,
pretty new white text. Yes, because
now look
it's
at us.
so
We're
dramatically special.
Yeah, we're professionals. But yeah, no, I agree. So I mentioned, yeah, I made a loop deck on Sunday at our super sealed, which was the 12-pack one. I made a gross blue red CAD deck, and Joey saw it. It just was the most disgusting pool. Like it was. I didn't have a choice. The card said, "You're making this deck." I had three of the Imperial armored commandos, that 4/3 Sentinels. I had two Shin Hadis. I had a Chimera. I had two Founding Rescues. I had a Grav Charge. I had the 3/7 that does 5 damage. Just so much CAD cards that it was like, well,
Mhm.
I guess I know what I'm building.
Sure.
And it was
And
funny. Like we were talking even afterwards. I had enough to build a separate green yellow grief deck that could have
mhm.
been decent. It just wouldn't have been as good as that CAD deck.
Yeah, but sometimes it's not a matter of the point if it's good or bad. Like I said, you should have just played
Yeah.
it just to see did it work the way I think it was going to work. So,
Yeah, but I just was so happy with such a gross number of cards. I'm like, oh, this deck is insane,
yep.
and it was. It performed very well. But yeah, I will say thoughts overall. Playing limited, at least initially, is this meta. The limited and draft and sealed meta is going to be very heavy on a small handful of leaders. It looks like this. I'm sad to not have splash bases anymore. I feel like they hurt the fun of limited and sealed a lot, and that's unfortunate. And then yes, we've just got a handful: Cad Bane, Grief, Balin potentially. There's a small handful of very strong leaders in this set that I think are going to be very dominant in, especially limited, in sealed specifically. Draft is a little bit different just because if too many people are piling on Cad Bane, they're all going to get screwed. So that works out well. So that's a different story. But at least in sealed, it feels like there's just a small handful of you need to try to build around these.
Yeah. There's definitely the power cards that are going to stand out all the more.
Yeah.
The I agree. I think the lack of splash bases does hurt the limited format. I think that those bases opened up a big door that we got spoiled with Lawless Time, honestly. It's we got kind of so used to them that now that we don't have them anymore, it's like, ugh, it's like what can I splash? What is actually worth the extra two to splash into something? And I just don't see a lot of cards fitting that bill in this set so far. Granted, it is only pre-release weekend. There's quite a
Yeah.
bit more discovery to happen, but it's very, very polarizing at the moment.
Yes, that's kind of my view at the moment. I've been talking to other people too, and it feels frustrating. And I think this is a an issue that I hope Fantasy Flight takes note of and maybe changes things in the future if this game is going to continue. Is why are we doing things for only a single set? make it a cycle thing. Make it a 3 set every year. Well, now 4 sets every year, but making your 3 main sets every year, have a shared something that's going on that's the same across all of them. Have Smuggle be in all 3 of them. Have I mean the perfect example is for this one. Have Splash Bases be all 3 sets this cycle. You can still make 30 bases on the next set, so you don't rotate out 30 health bases. But you could change things up significantly by having an entire cycle worth. But the issue is, this is where it comes down to. My understanding is the way Fantasy Flight is doing it now is it's separate teams doing every set. It's not one cohesive design team or one cohesive design leader leading things. It's just, here, you guys are on this set, you guys are on this set. And that means we don't have these things flowing through. And that's showing up in other ways, I think worth going into potentially, if Joe, if you want to dig into that, of some of the wording on cards also, because they don't have that cohesive overarching design leadership.
Um, it, yes and no. You can have different teams on different sets. That's not the problem. The problem is having the overall.
The leader.
Sure. I think Tyler technically is that person.
He
Um,
is. He is technically, but it needs I know people are probably going to hate to hear this, but it needs a Kevin Feige type. It needs somebody like that is going to put something. It needs a James Gunn. It needs somebody that is going to have an overarching vision over everything and kind of direct things. And it doesn't feel like anyone's really doing that. It's more just we're just making each set its own thing.
um, the whole each set its own thing with the keywords only being in one set and then going away is definitely the biggest part where that comes into play, because like when you have leaders that are dependent on keywords, uh,
Yep.
such as Bosk with bounties back in the day, and then you don't print any more bounties, that leader naturally loses seeing the light of day because you don't support that leader anymore after that. And that's always going to be a problem going forward, which means that the leaders that don't have those requirements are always going
Mm-hmm.
to be better than the leaders that do have those requirements.
Yep.
Just in the longevity. They might have their spot in the sun for that moment the set is fresh and the thing to do, but as soon as a couple more sets come out, you're gone. You're by the wayside. Whereas a leader like, say, Han 1 was relevant the entire life that he existed in the game because he had such an ambiguous ability on it. Similar to where Cad Bane in this set is going to be ambiguously good forever until he gets cycled
Yeah.
out, because
Yeah.
that restriction on his ping is not really a restriction. The only thing it really holds you back from doing is being the finishing blow. Instead, you have to use him as the starting blow. Okay,
Yeah.
fine. No big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, leaders like that, they need to be very careful about what they're doing. I mean, we already had so many problems with ping leaders in the past,
Yeah.
and now you make like a carte blanche, open-ended, free ping. It's
Yeah.
what? That doesn't make any sense. It
No,
just doesn't.
that feels like a I don't even know where to come on that one, because it doesn't feel like even it was well tested within the set, because Cad Bane definitely feels just overly dominant in a sealed and limited environment. It
Well,
just is. Yeah, he's just. They did not. I don't think They did not stat Cad Bane right at all.
the other
It's
thing to
turning
look
into a
at,
boba problem.
well, sure, but
Cad
the other
Bane
thing to
problem
look
is the
at
same as the boba.
is that look at his stat line, right? His stats didn't
Yeah,
suffer for the fact that he has a very good leader side ability.
yeah,
Normally, you would think like the other case in point would be like Fennec Shand, right? Fennec Shand theoretically has a very good leader side ability, which is why it has so many hoops to go through that it costs you a resource and you have to exhaust another unit in play because you get a readied unit.
yeah,
But then you look at her flip side, she's a 3/4 that dies to like a stiff wind in the. It's like, what the heck is this? You're
yeah.
not going to be able to do anything with that. And then when you go back to your leader side, you're so like throttled by all these hoops you got to go through, and then you have Cad Bing. Oh yeah, take a damage.
Yeah.
It's like wait, what? And like a lot of aggro decks will use shields as a buffer to prevent
Mhm.
dying so they can keep on pushing damage. Cad Bane says, haha, no shields for you. And yeah, that
No, it's as it, I we're going a bit off on a tangent, but I think it comes down to they need to be thinking more in cycles and not single sets. And it doesn't feel it feels like they're focused more on single sets right now and coming up with new sets to get more money grabs out of them so we can do 4 a year instead of 3 a year. Like it feels
that
like
is
that's where
not
they're
a
focused.
that's not a guaranteed thing to happen, so I wouldn't put that out there yet. But we're not necessarily going to force sets. You're jumping icons into believing that is the direction they are going, but they
They've
have not
said they
released
have
it. They did
said
not say
that
they're
they
going to
want
four
to go
sets.
to it, well, 3 sets and a mini set, but it's not even a mini set. It's a full set.
Mhm. Okay.
Yeah, I mean
Um,
icons doesn't have a season built around it, I guess. So it's slightly different in that aspect, but it's
correct.
still basically a full set.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the other thing that I was noticing based off of pre-release stuff, and this kind of
Yeah.
goes back to what your pre-release was, what mine was, and what I noticed some other players was, is this also kind of goes back to like me opening my boxes of cards for this set. It feels like there is a bad correlation issue in this set. I opened 3 boxes of cards plus the super sealed, so that's basically 3.5 boxes of cards. There were certain uncommons I only have 3 of. Like for that amount of volume to open and to only end up with 3 of an uncommon is kind of ridiculous to me. The other aspect was you had several people that got like you said, you got 3 of the Imperial Commandos in your pre-release. That's okay.
Yeah.
You had other guys that got 4 copies of a card in their stuff. It's like everything feels like it's like clumped. I mean, I my 3 boxes, I ended up with 5 Elzar Man legendaries.
That's
5 of the
ridiculous.
same legendary in 3 boxes. It's
Yeah.
like it feels like the sheets, the cut sheets, like you see behind me, but are like the same every single time. And then they're always paired with the same cards that are going out instead of being mix and matched and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And from a trying to get like there's like rares that I'm completely void of, and other ones I have a complete play set of. Yes, that can happen. It's a bit of a lottery. It's a bit of a luck grab, but I would have much rather seen it end up where like I have 1 to 2 of everything versus play sets of stuff and nothing of another. It just feels clumpy, and in that regard, it was a feels bad in my opinion for opening stuff. Um,
Yeah, I will. I have not opened all my boxes yet, but I will say, yeah, I'm in agreement. It did feel very clumpy in the pre-releases. There were a lot of like doubles of uncommons, which you don't usually see a lot of in a pre-release. With you're talking 6 packs, you usually don't see more than 1 or 2 doubles of uncommons. But like right away, back-to-back packs, I opened 2 home 1s on Sunday, like things like that. I'm like, just what, really? There was a lot of that. So I do agree that it did feel like a lot of the boxes or a lot of the packs that I was seeing open were very clumpy.
this isn't the first time this has happened either, and it makes me
Yeah.
wonder: is it always the same company doing the printing and cutting, or is it like have we changed companies back and forth? Or do I need to start paying attention to who printed the set to know if it's even worth going out and trying to buy packs, or if I should just say, "Hey, this is a single set for me. I'm not doing the packs thing." It's like
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't
So
know. I haven't seen anything about that, but yeah, it doesn't feel great, but we'll see. I mean, maybe it is just anecdotal. Maybe it is not clumping at all, and it was just your bad luck. It's possible.
it
We're
could be
not saying
confirmation
for
bias by
certain.
me, 100%.
Yeah.
But it was also what I noticed from other people's groupings
Yeah.
that they were getting as well that made me go, "What the?"
Well, and as we mentioned, it's been an issue before. This is not the first time of issues with boxes and box correlation, and like this has been a repeated issue for Fantasy Flight.
Yeah. So Anyway,
Yeah. Anyway,
if you didn't go to a pre-release, a lot of LGSs are still doing pre-releases over the week. So
yes.
just because the weekend is over doesn't mean that your chance of doing a pre-release is gone. But it's still a great environment to actually get exposed to the game. And so if you're just looking at, hey, it's 6 packs, you get to go, you get to play. If you're just looking at picking up some ashes anyway, it's not a bad way of just buying an extra 6 packs that way. So I would
Yeah.
encourage you to like try to find some pre-releases that are still going to happen and hit them up as you go along.
Yeah, 100%. Support your local game stores, and it's a good time. Even though, again, I don't love this limited as much as I like last set's meta, or last set's limited meta, but it's still a good time and always fun.
Right. Speaking
Yeah.
of meta, let's move on to the discussion point of what we're all kind of building up to, and well, most of us are building
Most,
up to and
yeah.
looking at, which is going to Galactics and what that meta is going to look like going forward. Since we did get the set spoiled to us way in advance, a lot of us have had plenty of time to look over and experiment with the cards from Ashes going into this. And what it's looking like is a very control heavy meta. And I would say
Yeah.
mid range to control heavy is where I would lead it to be.
I'd
Um,
almost say soft control to full control. Like that's
sure.
kind of where I'm seeing it as. Yeah, it's a little heavier than even regular mid range.
So, and I think this is as much as I do not like a control meta. I'm going to take my personal hat off right now and just go into an analytics aspect of is this good for the game? My concern with something like this is that it feels like FFG every single time a set comes out, you have three pillars that you're trying to have for a deck. You have your aggro, you have your mid range, and you have your control. And it's supposed to be a rock, paper, scissors in that regard. The aggro will beat control, mid range beats aggro, and control beats mid range. Typically,
Hmm.
this is how it all works out. Right now, with the caliber of the control cards that got printed, and I'm looking at Pre Vizsla, I'm looking at Chimera, I'm looking at, to a lesser degree, Ninth Sister, there is far too many solid control cards. Aggro does not exist in this format right now. Like, you're not going to see it.
So I would caveat that a bit. I do agree 100% aggro is pretty much just unplayable in most aspects. I don't think it is the big cards you're naming that are really what's causing the biggest part of this problem. It's not. Yes, Previsila, yeah, is very good. Yes, Chimera is very good. There's some very good big cards, but what's really gumming things up is the Sentinels and the Sentinel creep specifically. That's what is the biggest problem is Sentinels always used to be understated because they're Sentinels. So they get lower stats because of that. I mean, I think Wu brought it up in a video recently. The Gamorrean guards used to be a playable Sentinel. A 4/4 conditional Sentinel for 4 used to be considered playable. That's trash right now. You would never put that in a deck now because they've overstated all these Sentinels. I think the
You
best
know,
example of that I no, they are overstated
Casca
compared to what they
is
were.
Gamorrean guards.
But but
Casca is a
Casca,
blue
but
Gamorrean guards, just requires a token to be a sentinel.
but she gives herself that token. So she gives
Sure,
herself Sentinel. That's
sure,
what I'm saying. She's still overstated. She is better than Gamorrean Guards was
sure. Because
by giving
if she gets
herself.
her trigger, she comes in
Yeah,
basically as a 6/6 because you have a 2/2 with a shield plus her,
yeah, yeah.
right?
So again, she is overstated compared to Gamorrean Guards, and that's what I'm talking about. It's the Sentinels have gotten so much better than everything else, and that's the problem. Is now it's a you just throw a Merrick on the board and say, yeah, screw you. I don't have to care about the ground for the next 3 turns. It just shuts things down so hard now that it's a problem. And it just means you can't play on the ground as aggro.
So
You're shut
yes,
down completely.
your point is very valid and kind of goes hand in hand with what I'm saying because I think a lot of the problem is most of the big sentinels that came out in this set are blue. What's the
Yeah.
control color? Blue. So now you gave the control players all the early protection they need to get to that late game that you can't punch through. And if you do, so then it's like, okay, so everybody has to go to space. Let's go to space. Screw the
Yeah.
ground since we can't get in. Well, now what you've done is everybody knows where the threat is going to come from. So now all of their anti like aggro stuff is all anti space for the most part in that regard
Yep.
because it just is easier to shut down. And once they can get past that initial turns, once you get into the later stuff, it's like you roll right from no glory only results to forgotten, lost and forgotten, into chimera, into previsla. It's a perfect curve out,
Yeah.
and every single thing is remove and replace, remove and replace. And what used to be the meta against aggro or against control was going wide, right? And I said it before that this is probably your go wide set because you have the things like the Mandalorians making extra tokens, etc., and the Mandalorian tokens. But when
Yeah.
you have a unit like Pre Vizsla that just punishes you for going wide, or then they just wait and they single reactor ignition, punishing you for going wide because now it does damage to you at the same time as clearing everything out. Just everything results in a feels bad. Is
Yeah.
like so now I'm just gonna sit there. I'm gonna hold. I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna let you do your thing. You're gonna claim. Okay, great. Now I'm just gonna hold. I'm gonna wait. Let you do your thing. You're gonna claim. Now we're just basically playing a giant game of chicken to see who can actually play a unit and maybe get it off in aggressive negotiations to win the game.
Yeah. No,
Yay.
it's frustrating, and I just said I definitely think a lot of it comes back to the Sentinel creep and just that the Sentinels are so overpowered now that it's what the ground Sentinels are. I think Space Sentinels are still fine. There's not a lot of those are not overstated, but ground Sentinels are still so overpowered, and there's so many of them.
Mm.
They added so many this set with huge stat lines. Again, keep coming back to Merrick because a 2/6 stat line on a 3-drop Sentinel is ludicrous.
Well,
Like it's just too much. Like
look
that's
at
just
I was gonna say, look at Grogu and how much of a pain in the butt the 1/6 Grogu was because of that 6
yeah.
health.
Yeah, 6
And
health is
now
just
you put Sentinel and a bonus attack on that body.
yeah. Yeah,
Great.
it's way too good. And but it's restricted to blue red. That's your excuse for why it's okay. It's like no, that's still no.
Because blue
He
red
did not
control doesn't exist.
yeah, that should not have had that stat line. So that's a huge issue. And then to top that off, then they don't have ways to get around them. Yes, we have Saboteur. Saboteur options are so limited right now.
Well, also,
Incredibly limited.
and most
If you're
Saboteur units suffer on stats because of their
yes,
Saboteur.
significantly for having Saboteur. And it's like, well, yeah, but if you're gonna make your Sentinels beefier, you're gonna need to make more Saboteur and make Saboteur beefier. And then you just get into an arms race of just, well, we got
Mhm.
to scale this one up to scale this one up to scale this one. It's like, we got to be balancing this better, guys. And I do worry about this because this, as you mentioned, it's just become if you want to try to play aggro, you have to play in space. There's no option. You cannot do ground aggro.
Mhm.
And then because of that, that also means that all of the control decks know that their only aggro threat is in space.
Right.
So they're teching for that, and that just screws that up. So then aggro's just sitting here going, well, there's nothing I can do. And that's what we're seeing is aggro saying there's nothing I can do. I can squeak some wins out here and there, but by and large, I don't foresee a lot of aggro doing well at Galactics. Maybe I'm wrong. There could be a surprise aggro deck out of nowhere that I'm missing out on and not seeing.
I
And
want to
I would
see
love
it.
to see that. I
Please,
would love
please
it.
bring it.
Yes, I would be happy to see that. But
Um,
I don't think that's happening because what I am seeing across the board is control is just gumming things up so much, especially I think Cad Bane specifically is just devastating for aggro and also pretty damn brutal for mid range as well.
right. I mean, so that's the weird part about what this is, though. there is quite a few different decks going around. There really
Yeah.
is. There's more than Cad Bane. There's Krennic. There's Aura still. There is the Mandalorian on the light side stuff. You got the Ahsoka deck that's running around. You have the Ezra deck that's running around. There's a lot of diversity, but the problem is they're all doing the same thing. Like they
Yeah.
all run like the same 40 cards, and they're just changing like 10 things and changing who their leader is to maybe do something a little bit different. But like I even played against a Piet the other day, and a buddy Alex was like, we talked about it because I was like flabbergasted that this Piet was running Free Vizsla. And it was like, well, he's a good card. Why wouldn't you run it? I'm like, because you're a space deck. He's like, you don't have to be only space. Point taken. You don't. But the fact that's how good the card is that it's like it's so powerful that even a space focused deck is nope, I'm still running this because holy crap, I'm gonna blow you out with this card.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I don't know. We'll see. But right now it's just flipping
Yeah.
grim.
It's not. It doesn't feel great. That's kind of how my view is right now, and we'll see what everybody else gets. And again, maybe we're wrong. Maybe somebody's going to come up with some huge surprise at Galactics. I mean, we'll see. But everything I've seen as the new hot surprise does not is usually just a variation on something that we're already seeing. And that's
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot of, as you said, the same deck over and over again, slightly tweaked for different leaders, but still the same general deck.
Right.
So yeah, I'm not loving what I'm seeing. That doesn't mean this couldn't get better. Um, but yes, I do think, especially Fantasy Flight needs to be rethinking some of their design thought process, specifically in Sentinels. If you want a game that is people interacting back and forth, don't allow these gigantic speed bumps to just turn off one arena.
Well, they don't have to be gigantic to turn off an arena. I mean, look at how much pain in the butt Village Protectors was back in the day.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
not gigantic.
and how much more the armored commando is. I'm saying gigantic is it just even Village Protector usually gums it up for probably a couple turns.
Sure.
That's gigantic.
But that's what a sentinel is supposed to do is prevent and do that. I'm not saying that we don't have a sentinel issue at the moment. I mean, we need
No.
to start seeing like for every sentinel that gets printed, there needs to be a saboteur printed. Now,
Yes.
is that already the case? I haven't gone back and looked at the set. But what is the caliber of the saboteurs versus the caliber of the sentinels? Because
Yeah.
right now, it's like, oh, well, we printed this 4/3 shielded sentinel, but we also printed a 4/3 saboteur. Not the same thing.
Yeah. Well, they printed a 4/4 Saboteur with support, which is actually a decent card, but
Well,
that
no, no,
doesn't
no. You're
make up
talking about
for
the
it.
ship, but there's also a ground unit that's a 5/4 saboteur. There's also a
Oh
four
yeah.
three saboteur. There's other saboteurs that I know have been printed. But when you get a shield and I don't, that's not the same thing.
No. It's yeah, I agree 100%. It is no, it is just as I mentioned, it's the overstatting of these sentinels. It's the fact that we have, and I don't know, and the biggest problem is I don't know. It's going to be an issue for a long time. I mean, we're at the beginning of a cycle, basically the second set of a cycle. So this is going to be an ongoing into next year, also,
Sure.
unless they do something to deal with these overstated sentinels. But I don't see what they do about it other than
Well,
banning them, and I'm not advocating for that at the moment, but we need some answers, and I'm hoping that's coming in icons or the next set, but that doesn't help for current Galactics.
well, there is answers for Merrick already. Like if you're worried about Merrick, there is that yellow upgrade that gives a unit -2 power and gives them Sentinel. But Merrick states that as soon as he has an upgrade, he loses Sentinel and gets Saboteur. So it turns him into a 0/6 Saboteur with no Sentinel.
Yes, I want to go back to when I say there's no answers, I don't mean there's absolutely no answers. I say the answers are very, very limited and not very useful for a lot of decks. So let's go with that.
I would say they're more niche and you causes you to jump through a lot of hoops to make them happen at that point in time.
If you have to build a specific, if there's certain cards that everyone needs in their deck to deal with a specific problem because there's only one or two cards to deal with it, That card's the problem, not the people building the deck because they're not having the right answers for it.
Mm.
That's when it shifts the entire game, which is why I still think Topple the Summit is an issue, even though it's not. Boba is not a broken deck, but Topple is so limited in how you can interact with it that it's not that it messes the game up in my aspect. You have to build specifically and play specifically around that one damn card. And that's where you get a problem. And that's what I mean with these Sentinels is it's becoming a you have to build your entire deck on how you're going to deal with these gigantic ground Sentinels. And everyone has to deal, and that's everyone's problem now. And it's broken, is what I would say.
That's a big word to be thrown around, though. So
yeah, but it's not a broken. The problem is that the problem here is it's not a broken where I'm like, it's this one card. If we ban this, things could help. There's a bigger problem because there's too much of this, and you can't just. I don't want you to ban all of them or anything like that, but I don't know how we get out of it.
Let's flip brain power, okay? What do you do to thwart this? If you are expecting Galactics meta to be soft control to control, what type of things are you trying to bring to counter that? Or do you just say, if I can't beat them, join them, and then you lump it into it? In which case, then you better back your seat good, because you're going to be sitting there for a long time as you go to time on every single one of these games, and you better hope you won that first match or that first game, because that might be what determines the entire match at that point in time.
Yep. No, it's a good question that I do not have the answer to because I'm not thinking that hard about Galactics because I'm not going myself. But no,
you're supposed to be helping me.
I know, and I've been trying, but you're impossible to help. You're on 30 different decks at all times. It's impossible. It's impossible to get you to focus.
What?
Focus on one.
I do focus on one until it doesn't work, and then I move on to the next one.
Exactly. Which is 3 games, and then you're like, I give up. It's not working. Next.
I have 120 games logged on the one deck before I'm finally like, this is not working the way I want it to. So
yeah. No, I don't know what our answer is, and that's kind of just where I'm at. Is like build what you like. It comes down to build a deck you're familiar with, that you're comfortable with, and at least you know your lines into these decks, know what you're trying to do, and just go with that at this point in time. Because yeah, it's gonna be a lot of control, and that is what you're gonna have to deal with.
I feel like the most fun decks to play just get shut down by whatever this meta is right now, which then just kind of like, is it fun to play anymore?
That's my concern that I'm seeing right now is this even fun? it's kind of frustrating at the moment. So we'll see. Again, this could change. We don't have a crystal ball. We're not the best deck builders known to man. So we might be missing things, and other people are definitely, I'm sure we're all missing some things, but I just don't. I mean, the latest thing that people are trying to push now is the one-shot Kylo build. I've been seeing that starting to pop up and more, and it's like, yeah, okay, fine.
Because if you're just gonna sit there and do nothing, Kylo's great at just building a back end door. So I've thought about it. So you're just trying to find that, okay, I know I can't stick anything on the board to get me there, so I'm going to have to use my leader because he's guaranteed, or she's guaranteed, whoever you're using. It's just like, but then retaliation counters that theoretically, as long as you didn't just die in one shot. So, and like you said, with all the Sentinels, that's going to be hard to pull off as well.
I don't worry about people main decking retaliation, though. That sideboard, yes, but main deck, nobody's running retaliation main deck.
Sure, but you even got the problem of if it's in their sideboard, you might get game 1 with that plan, right?
Yeah.
Because you might catch somebody off guard, didn't expect it, and then they prep for it. Now they know what you're trying to do the entire time. Now it's really hard to get that to pull off again because they know what to expect now. So it's kind of what I like. Everybody's on Ahsoka right now for like an aggro and Ezra. And Ahsoka's kind of the same thing. She has her big burst flip turn, but if you can prevent that big burst flip turn, she don't got very much, is what it feels like in my playing.
All right, if you can even just slow her down early, so you can have a big 20-point burst flip turn, and then I'm going to drop a sentinel in front of that and prevent everything else from hitting me and start to heal back because that's what the new control does. Like it's more of a yeah, just can you mitigate that? And I think it's too easy to mitigate that. Even a sentinel just on her flip turn becomes a whoop, there goes my giant flip turn. So
Unless
yeah,
unless it's the yellow version, in which case then she can have
unless it's a
ascension
yellow,
cable.
yeah, potentially. Yeah, there's a few ways around it, but that still blocks usually the other guy that's going to be attacking
I
on
think
her
the thing that's
support
good
action.
with Ahsoka is basically the free 2 extra damage that you can get out of her.
Yep.
But again, that's all contingent on you having that other unit in play that can then utilize to buff. So if you play that other unit trying to get the buff and I remove that bigger unit, now you don't have anybody to buff.
Yep. Yeah, as I said, I don't know where it's best to build right now. Even mid range, even most mid range is not feeling great against these control decks because I mean, control is built to just devour mid range.
Correct. But
So
like,
that
again,
it becomes
that's
a
my grievance is that it's like you have this rock paper scissors like theoretical uh balance spectrum. So you can't play mid range if control is so good. So then you're supposed to be able to play aggro, but it feels like control got so many tools to thwart aggro that now it trumps both the other two. It's
yeah.
that's what it's feeling like. That it's just like you can never have all three viable decks. It just doesn't feel like that it ever happens.
At least the way that yeah, at least the way they've been balancing. But we'll see. Again, we're still not there yet. We've still got a few weeks till Galactics, so things may yet change. But this is definitely not looking like a very exciting meta in my mind.
We'll see what happens with all of it. So I'm still figuring out what I'm going to be doing. So
But anyway,
if you got any
yeah.
suggestions, feel free to let me know. So,
Well,
but moving
that
on,
said,
if you
yep.
do want to go through the grind of Galactics and prep yourself for going into the next season, because Galactics is the start of the next season. If you do not make the Galactics championship, there's always the Open, and they have announced that there is an Open season at every regional and sector going forward. And you have the major events. So you're going to have your primary and your secondary tournament to actually participate in at these different conferences.
Yeah,
And that's
yeah, a
going to
few
look at what
updates.
season 2 updates is.
Yeah, yeah, some exciting updates. I mean, we'll start with the simple ones, which are just a few changes on some of the events. We're going to have a few more PQs. I think they said like 215-ish, 220, something like that.
I think they
They're
added like
upping the
10.
numbers a little bit per set. And they're also going to 4 sectors of sets. Now we're going to have 4 sectors every set. And the other big change on just events is regionals are now once a year. They're basically the European version of Galactics. Is
Basically, because they're always
yes,
going to be
they're
in Europe, they said.
saying yeah, Galactics is the bigger one still, but it's always going to be in Europe. It's always going to be the back half of the year in the winter, and it's going to be basically the same type of event as Galactics, but in the UK or well in Europe somewhere.
Yep.
So big changes, some smaller changes there, but yeah, some nice additions of a few more. Like getting some more sectors is not bad. I think that's a good way of doing it. And yeah, maybe someday actually go to a regionals in Europe, depending on how long this game actually survives. Who knows?
So the other thing with that is that they changed the point structure for going to PQs. I wish they
Yes.
had done this sooner because your boy would have qualified had they done that. So
This and I'm happy they did this. This shows they're at least listening to people's frustrations. As you can see highlighted here, it means anytime there's this PQ that is 65 people or more, anybody who makes top 16, well, 9 through 16 gets 10 points. So you at least get some points outside of the top 8. And they even made like smaller events are not going to get as many points. So if you're 9 to 32, it's only the top 4
they
that
get
gets
as
good
many
points.
points, that doesn't pass down to as many players.
Is
That's the difference.
Well, no, it's the same amount of points. They
That's
get
what I'm saying.
100
They
points
get
per
the
champion.
same amount of points, but it doesn't
No.
go as deep into the player
Oh,
roster.
I meant same overall points. So yes, they have. I meant they do not have the same overall points because they
Okay.
don't have top 8 and top 16. But yes, you're right. The placement points are the same for
Yeah.
everyone.
The way you
Yeah,
said it, I
they
took
didn't.
it as like first doesn't get 100 anymore. I'm like, no, 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 that's
No,
not
no,
right.
no. Same placement points, just not as many points being given out at the PQ, which
Right.
is the way it should be. If you have less players, they should not all have the same as much opportunity. Like give it balance a little bit more by giving these bigger ones better points. They
Yes and
also,
no. But I mean, it's the
yeah,
fact of like, oh, if I have a 32 player PQ, first place is going to get 100. If I have a 10 player PQ, first place still gets 100 points and gets qualified. So
yeah,
that's still a little interesting that that's the case. It definitely shows some growth as far as what they're doing. What I think one of the bigger ones to be looking at is the fact that the finalist, second place, is now 50 points, which equals half of the invite, which is what it should have been from the get go. That was the biggest
yes,
crock of what the heck were they thinking with that point structure. It also then says that if you get 3 top 4 finishes, you qualify, which also makes complete mathematical type sense.
yeah.
So,
No, I
um,
like the changes. The other big change they had on the PQ points also is the cap on PQ points, which I think will be a good one as well. As they're doing more PQs and trying to spread it out more, they're capping it at 500. Yes, it's not going to change everything, but it will mean some of those top players will just not be going to PQs after a bit because there's no reason in general, unless they're, trying to help one of their buddies. But it
they
becomes less, it gives them less incentives to travel everywhere to go to these, for example, at least for the PQs. They still get points beyond 500 for everything else. It's just PQs specifically. And that's Fantasy Flight is trying to make PQs be more focused on just more local, not trying to have people travel as much for them, I think.
sure. I think that's a win more issue as far as game terms go. It's like the percentage of people that that's affecting is maybe one. That's not going to matter.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the points were altogether. I don't even know if they share a leaderboard. I can't remember, but I
They
I,
did.
I don't know if they've said if how many have gotten over 500 this year. There's going to be more
Uh,
opportunities for points this year. This is why they're also thinking about it. That's fair, but yeah, I agree. It's not going to affect a massive amount of people.
no, it's a win more problem, and it's just like great. It's something, but it's more so pertaining to grumblings maybe among the already existing top 32/50 that were like
Yeah,
trying to fight for and vie for that spot. So again, you're talking about 50 players out of how many people play this game. So even if you look
yeah,
at what goes to the Galactics, say 5,000, it's 50 players out of 5,000 are grumbling
yeah,
about the somebody went to so many PQs and that's the only reason they qualified. Honestly, first world problems. Who cares? That's
yeah.
my take
There's
on it.
that. Yeah, that's fair. I see it. I see the aspect of at least it's going to give a little less incentive for those top players to go to as many PQs, which is not a bad thing.
Well, I mean, you look at it this way: it's like if they're going to PQs and they're winning multiple PQs, they're just preventing their competition at Galactics.
Yeah,
That's incentive to go to them. So then you have less people qualified,
yeah,
therefore less competition when it comes to Galactics the next year or whatever. Again, I don't see a problem with that. I mean, if they're good enough to get to that first every single time, now if you're part of that local group that has to play them at every single PQ, that might suck because then you can
yeah,
basically say you're never going to win. But in that regard, now that in fact the points trickle down farther, maybe that is better because you can still get a good chunk of points for going. Let's say a good chunk, but I mean, realistically, if you're going to get the top 16 at you need 10 PQs at 65 plus players to qualify in that regard. It's still
yeah,
probably not going to happen. It's just
yeah.
not.
That's fair. Yeah. No, as it overall, it shows that I think overall the changes that we see with the point system shows that Fantasy Flight is listening. There's still work to be done. I don't think we're in an optimal position still. I think they still need to keep tweaking it, and we're not obviously going to get anything for the next year, but it shows they're watching. It shows they're listening, and gives me at least some hope that maybe this will last a little longer than most Fantasy Flight things.
I don't see any
Which is
reason
what
why
I
it shouldn't.
yeah
They're several sets deep going forward. They keep on bringing more and more people onto their team so that it shows expansion and growth at that point in time. So I think the bigger thing is that a lot this Galactics will show us did they learn lessons from the last
Yes.
to fix it? Like one of the biggest things that I think that people suggested, and it sounds like they listened to and are implementing, is badges having QR codes. When you redeem prizes, your badge is scanned, and there is limits to the prizes that you can get, aka the Twin Suns showcase leaders. Every badge can only claim one of each leader. So you
Yep.
cannot have somebody doing a run on the Dooku's, which is what one of the bigger ones that everybody keeps on saying that they want. You're not going to have like a super laser blast incident like we had last year, where someone's going to commandeer all of them and then try to sell them on the secondary market. No, 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 no. You get your one and you be happy about it and you move along. I think that is great to see that they're trying to implement that because they want to see the prizes go around. That
Yep.
said, we're yet to determine or see what are we going to have to actually pay in tickets to redeem these things. Because if you stated that you have now foil and regular versions of cards, you've got an abundance of the printing, you don't want to go home with a bunch of freaking product.
Yep.
Make it affordable and make it time worthy to chase it. For instance, I think last year Twin Suns was arguably one of the better ways to get a pod, get in, get some tickets, and in a reasonable amount of time, get out so that you could actually maximize how many tickets you could get.
Yeah.
And I'm saying don't just buy the ticket, get into the pod, and immediately concede and walk away just to get back in line to get into another pod. If you actually complete the event you signed up for, play the game of Twin Suns, say that's going to take 40 minutes to play a game of Twin Suns, depending on what kind of the deck is and how aggressive you want to be at like knocking somebody out just to do whatever kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So say it's 40 minutes. They were giving out one ticket per player, plus the winner got 400. So you theoretically could have gotten 500 just from one Twin Suns. That cost you $10 for the pod. Most players were just chopping out the total 800 tickets at 200 apiece and just playing a game, and whoever wins wins. It didn't really
Yeah.
matter. So then you can look at it saying it's $10 for 200 tickets. A Luke Skywalker or Darth Vader showcase last year cost 3,000 tickets.
Yeah.
So that means you have to enter into, if you did the split method, 15 Twin Suns pods. That's $150. Not a bad price for a showcase.
Yeah.
But it's going to take you at 40 minutes a pop, a very long time to get your showcase.
Yep. And that's where the issue is. Yeah.
I don't want to see that. I don't want to have to
Yep.
spend my entire convention weekend grinding away for one little thing.
Yep. Yeah. That's
Don't
going
do
to be
that.
the real telling. That's going to be it's going to be what's really telling is, yeah, how well Fantasy Flight listened is how well they run these things. I worry they're going to be overpriced again because of all the other problems with pricing. They're not going to be focused on the pricing problem, and we're going to have stuff overpriced. And it's probably going to be, it's all, I would recommend for anybody going to Galactics, probably don't get your prizes day one or even maybe day two. Wait till day three because they may end up chopping prices on prizes. If they're so high that nobody's getting them, they're going to cut the prices come Saturday or Sunday.
And you'll have a ridiculous line to wait in for doing that.
You will have that. Yes, you're going to have a long. Well, Sunday specifically, the line Sunday will be horrible again. I mean, it might not be. There's multiple booths now. That's going to change. That helps a bit. Having multiple prize booths does change things, but yeah, it's still going to be a mess. But it'll be something to weigh. But that's if you get there day one and see prizes are ridiculously overpriced, you can bank on they're probably going to end up having to cut the prices at some point.
Yeah. Like I said, financially, the Twin Suns ticket prices make sense. $150 for a showcase. Great. That
But
makes sense
time wise,
financially.
it's not possible. That's what it
Time
comes down to.
wise
Yeah.
is the problem. So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, and that's where the issue is. It should be incentivizing people to play the game to then get prizes,
yeah.
not to have to skirt around and not actually play the game and just pay money to get tickets to get prizes. Like there should be enough time to play a number of games, earn enough tickets to buy a number of things off the prize wall.
Mhm.
And that's how the math should work. I'm doubtful it's going to, but we'll see. We'll see.
Who knows? We
Uh,
won't know until we get there. That's all we can say. So,
yep. But anyway, I think we've rambled for far too long today, so I think we should probably cut off at that. But that's a little SWUmary update for you, all the fun things
about an hour.
happening. About an hour, yeah. That's a good ramble session on us. We covered a number of things though, so and it's been a while, folks. So you love hearing us talk, right? Right? That's why you're watching this. Yeah. But anyway,
Right. We're gonna get Corey a light at some point in time so his face stays illuminated.
yeah,
And
I noticed how that kept happening. I don't know what's going on here, but I don't know what's up with my lighting and my camera. But it is how it is sometimes.
anyway, we'll see you guys next time, and if not sooner, I'll see you at Galactics. If you see me around there, come say hi.
Yep. Thanks, everybody.